Parents gave me a used car. What I found in the trunk shocked me. Some gifts don't look valuable until you discover what was hidden inside them. When my parents handed me the keys to an old 15-year-old sedan, I smiled and thanked them. The truth? I was a little disappointed. Most of my friends were buying newer cars. Meanwhile, I was driving something with faded paint, a dented bumper, and nearly 200,000 miles on the odometer. I had no idea that old car would completely change my future. My name is Tyler, and this is the story of what I found in the trunk of my parents' used car. I had just graduated from college. Like most graduates, I wasn't exactly swimming in money. I'd accepted my first full-time job nearly 40 minutes from home. Public transportation wasn't reliable. Without a car, I probably would have lost the opportunity. My parents knew that. One Saturday morning, my dad pulled into the driveway with an old silver sedan. It wasn't pretty. The headlights were cloudy. The seats had small tears. The radio barely worked. Dad smiled and tossed me the keys. "It's yours." I hugged both of my parents. I knew they couldn't afford anything newer. The car wasn't flashy, but it meant freedom. For the next few weeks, I drove it everywhere. Work, the grocery store, weekend trips. It wasn't fast, it wasn't comfortable, but it never let me down. Then one evening, I decided to clean it. The previous owner had left random junk in the trunk. Old blankets, a rusty toolbox, broken jumper cables. As I lifted the carpet lining, I noticed something strange. There was a loose metal panel I'd never seen before. Curious, I unscrewed it. Inside was a small waterproof envelope. My heart immediately started racing. For a second, I imagined cash, jewelry, something valuable. Instead, I found a handwritten letter. It wasn't addressed to me. The envelope simply read, "For whoever owns this car next." I sat down on the garage floor and started reading. The letter was written by an elderly man named Walter. He explained that he'd owned the car for nearly 20 years. His wife had passed away after battling cancer. They couldn't afford expensive vacations or luxury gifts. So every Sunday, they'd simply drive together. No destination, just conversation. According to Walter, this car had carried them through the happiest years of their lives. Near the end of the letter, one sentence hit me harder than anything else. If you're reading this, life has probably taken you somewhere new. I hope this old car helps you reach somewhere even better. I smiled, then noticed something else inside the envelope. A small key. No explanation, just a key. Now my curiosity was impossible to ignore. The following day, I searched the entire trunk. Nothing. The glove compartment? Nothing. Under the seats? Nothing. Finally, I noticed the spare tire compartment looked slightly different. Using the tiny key, I unlocked a small hidden storage box built into the side. Inside was another envelope. This one had my last name written on it. I froze. How was that possible? I opened it carefully. Inside was a note from my father. Apparently, he discovered Walter's original letter while cleaning the car before giving it to me. Instead of removing it, he decided to leave it exactly where it was, but he also wanted to add something of his own. His letter read, "Tyler, I know this isn't the car you dreamed of. I wish I could have afforded something newer. But every extra dollar your mom and I had went toward helping you finish college without debt. If you're disappointed, I understand. But I hope one day you'll realize that this old car represents something bigger than transportation. It represents every sacrifice we gladly made because we believed in your future." By the time I reached the last sentence, I couldn't see the page anymore. My eyes were full of tears. Then I unfolded one final piece of paper. It wasn't another letter. It was a savings bond. My parents had been quietly buying small bonds in my name every birthday since I was 5 years old. The total value had grown to nearly $28,000. Dad had hidden the paperwork inside the trunk because he wanted me to discover it only after I appreciated the car itself, not because of what it could eventually give me, but because of what it already represented. That night, I drove straight to my parents' house. Neither of them expected to see me. The moment my dad opened the door, I hugged him harder than I ever had before. He immediately knew I'd found everything. He smiled. I guess you opened the trunk? Neither of us said much after that. We didn't need to. A few months later, I used part of the savings bond to make a down payment on my first home. Not a mansion, just a small place. But it was mine. The old sedan stayed with me for another 6 years. Friends constantly asked why I never upgraded. I always gave the same answer, because this car reminds me where I started. Eventually, the engine finally gave out. Repairing it would have cost more than the car was worth. Before sending it to a scrapyard, I removed both letters, Walter's and my father's. They're framed together now in my office. Whenever life gets stressful, I read them again, because one reminds me that ordinary moments become extraordinary when shared with people you love. The other reminds me that the greatest gifts parents give their children are often the sacrifices those children never see. Looking back now, the most valuable thing hidden in that trunk wasn't the savings bond. It wasn't the secret compartment. It wasn't even the letters. It was perspective. Sometimes we spend so much time wishing for something better that we completely miss the love already sitting right in front of us. If you've ever received a gift that meant far more than you realized at first, share your story in the comments below. Sometimes the smallest surprises leave the biggest impact.